Welcome to Meet the Judge meets Geoff Corish. And tonight we are, for the first time, streaming to both Facebook and YouTube Live. So we shall see how that goes. Geoff needs no introduction to most people. One of the most successful, if not the most successful handlers in this side of the Atlantic. His wins are legendary. But not only are his wins legendary, his breeding is legendary under the Sealaw prefix initially, and latterly with along with Michael Code, Pamplona. Their successes have no bounds. I'm delighted to welcome you, Geoff. How are you?
Thank you. I'm fine, thank you.
How are things in the UK right now?
Wet and windy.
Bit like Ireland.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, we tend to get the weather and then send it over to you in a worse condition.
Yeah, you always were too kind.
Yes. That's what you get for 800 years of occupation.
Okay.
Yeah. And the whole COVID situation, we all relatively know what's happening in the UK. The vaccinations are being rolled out pretty swiftly.
Yeah, we're doing better than you are. I spoke to someone today.
Yes.
We are doing. I mean, both Michael and I have had our first jabs.
Have you?
Yeah, and I think in this country there's only another third to go to have the whole country inoculated. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing.
And it's very slick when it's done. It's so slick. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we're way behind. I mean, we are so slow. I mean, I can't wait to get mine. And it appears to be making inroads. I mean, the results that are, that seem to be positive.
Well,
aside from the I don't want the vaccination because I'm going to have problems afterwards.
I just don't get that nonsense. No. I really don't. You know, this is not just flu. This thing can kill you. And all the daft reasons that people come up with. Well, I'm sorry. If they get it, they'll certainly know they've got it.
Yes.
I spoke to somebody today who's had it, and they're still recovering from March last year.
Wow. Yes, that's the other thing, because there is this theory that there is a stronger COVID which carries on, and you don't really recover from it.
A lot of people say the fatigue is dreadful, and the person who told me was actually a doctor.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
And the dog show scene, obviously in the UK, it's not happening at all, like similar to here. Do you think are you likely to have shows this year?
I honestly don't know. I really honestly don't know. I mean, if the vaccination program is going the way it is, then there has to be some sort of hope. But shows like Crufts.
Yeah,
right. I don't know what the implications of that are. We of course we don't know. Everybody comes up with all these sorts of stories that dogs, no general public. Well, if that was to be the case, what sort of Crufts would it be? I mean, there'd be no trade people there because there would be no people to buy stuff from them. So that would be gone. No general public. I mean, it's just, I can't envisage what a Crufts like that would be like.
No,
that's true. As I say, it's just what we hear.
But perhaps, and I've mentioned this on Facebook myself. In terms of we've had sort of a post from or an email from the Kennel Club here to say that unless things change, there will be no shows. But perhaps we should be looking perhaps towards the smaller shows, maybe a couple of breed shows where you can certainly control social distancing, and okay, you go in if everything is timed. I mean, there's enough trained people that are involved in running dog shows that could do this standing on their head.
Yeah, I agree with you there, but the problem we have in this country is the venues that we have are quite small. You know, village halls, etc. They're very small, so the distancing would be a real problem to organise. I mean, I heard about shows going ahead and people having to sort of sit in their cars.
Yes.
They're called when their class is in, and then they go back into their car. I mean, really and truly, where's the fun in that? You know,
that's a fair point.
You go to shows to show your dog, yes, and you go to win, yes, but you also go to see your friends and have a good time and socialize. Well, if that's
a fair point.
What would be the point?
Yeah.
You drive 4 hours to a show. You go in your class. You don't win. You get back in your car and you come home.
You come home. Yeah. That's a fair point, actually.
I don't get it. I hope I'm wrong. But
well, perhaps we maybe
the bigger championship shows, the outside shows. Maybe there's a chance there that can happen because obviously there's more space and you're in the fresh air. You're not in confined areas.
But certainly we're looking probably towards the autumn time. I would think.
Well, let's hope not. But maybe we'll in this country we'll know more. I think it's Monday when Boris Johnson tells us a little bit more about what's going to happen.
Well, it appears here we're going into. It appears we're going to be in lockdown till probably April, start of May.
Yeah.
But hey ho, there we go.
Well,
anyway, Geoff.
Anyway,
when you were growing up, were you involved in dogs? Were your parents involved in dogs, or how did you get into the whole world of dog showing?
I was always animal crazy, always. And when I was at school, a teenager, I decided once I left school and started to work, I would buy myself a dog.
Okay.
Now I don't know where the idea came from. I can't remember this far back, but I wanted a wire fox terrier, and for whatever reason, my parents wouldn't allow it. They said I couldn't have one. So I decided to have a Westie. I must have looked at books or something. I don't know why. I can't remember. So I got this Westie, which was a pet, and where I lived in Southport, we had 2 dog clubs, and I decided I would show. Well, thinking back, I mean, it just fills me with horror because nobody told me how to trim. I don't even know how I trimmed, and I mean, to be fair, when I look at the picture of him now, I cringe. I mean, I just cringe. But anyway, I went and I had a good time, and people were very nice to me, and they were very helpful, and you kind of get the bug, as they say. And I was so lucky in going to these local shows. There was an old couple there who lived not too far from where we were, and they invited me round to the house, and I went round and I became very friendly with them. And they were getting on in years, but they were still, still okay. But they gave me a bitch.
Okay.
On breeding terms, I had to give a puppy back. And it was actually bred by Miss Cook. Well, those in the breed will know who I'm talking about, the famous fame check lady. But this bitch wasn't in her kennel name because there was some issue with paperwork, which wasn't uncommon with Cookie. So it was in these people's name, and they had bred a champion dog. So I decided to use him on this bitch. I had 3 puppies, and I kept 2 bitches, and one of them was my first champion.
Really?
And people say that if you knew you'd no chance of winning. Well, I have to say, in those days, I was nobody. I was just a kid. I mean, the bitch was quite nice. Again, I don't know who taught me how to trim. I think these people probably must have taught me. But I trimmed, and I won CCs under some really, one was a very famous lady called Mrs. Sansom, Catherine Sansom from Darlington. Quakertown was a very famous kennel. She gave me the CC, my second CC.
Wow.
And it was just, well, I went from there, you just really had the bug then.
So you achieved your first champion then?
Yeah.
And when you started off in Fox Terriers, obviously you mentioned that particular couple that gave you the bitch, etc., etc. But were there others that influenced you when you started showing?
Well, I was very, again, in this game you have to have a little bit of luck.
Yes.
And showing this bitch of my own. In those days, I didn't have a car. I mean, I couldn't afford a car. I used to go to shows on coaches, and there was a handler up in Carlisle called Fred Sills, who approached me at one place and said, "Look, I'll take you to the shows for nothing if you'll help me with the dogs."
Wow. Yeah.
Well, I mean, literally from Carlisle down to the southern shows, he passes my door. So I started going to shows with him. Well, of course, he was a well-known handler, and through him, I met lots of people, lots of famous people. Ernie Sharp, who was a fantastic handler. All the handlers: Vincent Mitchell, Georgie Barr, Elsa Mayer. The list was endless, and they were all really nice to me, and gave me lots of encouragement, and I was, again, luck comes into it. At one show, Ernie Sharp approached me and said to me, "I've got this client who's got this dog, but I can't show him. I can't remember when now. Would you like to show him?" And I said, "Right, okay." Well, that dog happened to be champion Dianthus Buttons, who was best in show at Crufts.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And then I started handling.
And of course, wire Fox Terriers then would have been quite strong, because I mean you would have had.
No, it was the Westies.
No, but I'm talking when you were in Wire Fox.
No, I didn't go into wires.
Oh, sorry. Okay, I misunderstood you.
I wanted a wire, but my parents wouldn't let me. So I wanted a Westie.
Yeah, sorry. That takes us on, because Dianthus Buttons was your first best in show winner at Crufts.
Yeah, 1976.
And I'm hoping this is going to work now, Geoff, because if you don't see this, tell me, because that should be up on screen. Dianthus Buttons, yes.
Yeah.
The
lady on my left, the first that was the owner. That was Mrs. Newstead.
Yes. So what made him so special?
He was a dog with great charisma. He was a really nice dog. He was big enough, not too big, but he was big enough. He had a lovely head, great coat, but he was a great showman. Always gave of his best, And it was amazing that cross, because I won the breed again under Mrs. Sansom, famous, and then the group judge was Dinah Hamilton, which was Pepe Summerfield's mother, and she was a real dyed-in-the-wool terrier woman, And the win under her was just amazing. And then, of course, best in show was Joe Braddon.
So you mentioned that this is, you started handling Dianthus Buttons. Is that when the handling bug bit? Pretty
much. Well, because then one thing leads to another. Miss Cook started asking me to get dogs ready for her and show dogs for her. I made a champion for her, champion Fame Tech Extra Special, who I actually made up in, I think it was 10 days then.
Wow.
Where the shows worked, and he was made up in 10 days, and that was an amazing. I hope I'm going to ramble a bit, I'm afraid, but there
No,
was
walk
a
away.
story about this dog, because Cookie was a real character, and she had this little old Volkswagen pickup, and she used to go to shows in this pickup, and the dogs were on the back in these crates with a tarpaulin over them. And before I got this extra special, she was going somewhere, driving along the motorway, and all of a sudden somebody pulled along the side of her and pushed over and said, I think one of your dogs has got off the back and is trotting down the middle of the motorway. True.
Okay. Oh. So you get into handling and then you start breeding, I'm assuming.
In those days, breeding really didn't matter too much to me. You know, I mean, I started off with Westies, and then it progressed into Scotties, and I showed lots of Scotties for people. Then the Norfolks came along, and then Lakelands came along, and you know, I was really too busy getting these dogs ready for shows to really concentrate so much on breeding. So that kind of went to the side, and I concentrated more on the handling, really.
So you had to learn, particularly with terriers, you had to learn an awful lot of presentation.
Yeah, you see,
and a lot of people would along with Michael, would say that both of you are probably some of the most gifted presenters of dogs around today. Where did you pick that up? Because that's not. Well, is it something you're born with, or is it something that you really do have to work at?
Well, I'm not artistic in any other way at all. So I don't know where that part of me came from, because my parents and none of the family were like that at all, and even today they're not. So I don't quite know where it came from. I think all I can say is in my early days, all the time I was striving to be better and better. I was never completely happy with what I did. The next one had to be better, and the next one had to be better. And to be honest with you, even today, I always want to be better. It's you know, I found a quote which it was a good while ago, and I've always thought about this, and it was a quote written by Muhammad Ali.
Yes.
And he said, champions are made from something they have deep inside them, a desire, a dream, a vision. They have to have the skill, but the will has to be stronger than the skill.
Fair point, yeah.
You know, I really think that is true. I think, you know, you have to have that passion. You have to have that desire to want to be better all the time. You know, if you're just going to sort of say, okay, I've done it now, I'm fine, well, then you'll always stay there. You know, but I didn't want that. I wanted to be better and better.
Yeah.
And you pick up things from people, you know, all the while. Even now, if you like, I watch people how they do things, and you pick bits up here and there, and you use them. You know, trimming wise, you know, you watch people. When I started, of course, there were lots of great handlers around. You know, Vincent Mitchell, I mean, Freddie Searles, Ernie Sharp, Edgar Sargent. I mean, the list is endless. And I would just be in the grooming areas, just watching these people, dogs ready, and you know, doing things, and they would tell you. You could ask them something, and they'd explain to them why they're doing it, and you know, so you know, all the time you're picking up bits all along the way, and you're using them.
And you know, you make an interesting point there, because I don't think people understand how much you can pick up by just standing watching somebody doing something. I mean, I remember Jason Lynn trimming a dog I had after Glen Carlsberg at Belfast one year, and I'm just, you know, I was the dog holder, But just watching him trim, you learn so much, and you pick up. All right, you're never going to be as good as these people, but those little snippets. I don't think people realise how important that is nowadays. Would you agree?
Yeah, I agree. Because I mean,
And asking questions.
Yeah, why have you done that? Why? For what reason have you done that? Why did you leave all that hair there? Why did you take it off there? But we don't get those many questions these days.
No, you don't. I think there is an element that either people are afraid to ask you, or they think they know.
I think it's more. I think the more they think they know, rather than I don't mind people asking me, why are you doing that? I don't mind it at all. But very few.
Well, you're not going to give away the trade secrets, but you will give away tips.
Well, I'm not sure there is trade secrets. It's in your eye. You can't really teach somebody to trim.
Yes.
Because it's like a painter. I'd love to be able to paint. Oh, useless. And a painter couldn't teach me because it's in your eye. You've got to think about what you want to create. I say to people, before you start trimming, think about what you want to create, the shape you want before you start. Don't just get a pair of scissors and go hack, hack, hack. Think about it first and then do it. Yeah.
So when did you decide that you wanted to do handling professionally? When did that occur?
When the money started coming in.
Okay. As good as we use it.
No, not really. No. I don't know really. It just sort of carried on. And of course, when you do well, and then you get people praising you, you like that. I mean, everybody likes that. It's great, and it gives you that bit more encouragement to do it. Yeah.
And is there a standard for exhibits that you take on that you have, or
yeah?
How do you, if somebody approaches you and says, "Look, I want you, or I would like you to handle my dog for me," is there a standard?
And my answer to them is, and what are you asking me to do with it? Do you just want to win a class, or do you want more?
Mm-hmm.
And then they tell me, and it's usually, I want it to be a champion. And I will say to them, well, thank you very much, but I personally couldn't do that for you. Mm-hmm. Rather than say to them, the dog's not good enough. I won't take anything on that I don't think is top quality. I've never done that, and I never will. Because I think the thing is, if you show the best you possibly can, a judge will always give you a second look because they know, that you always show decent dogs. They'll always, I can't say you're always going to win, but they'll always come back and give you another look just in case.
Yeah. And Susan White, one of our avid followers, wants to know: do you think judges put more importance in top grooming now compared to years ago?
Well, in fairness, grooming is different now than it was years ago.
Yes.
It's more high quality now than it was then.
Absolutely.
I mean, when I look back to those days, I mean, dogs were tidy enough, but they're better now because of lots of things. Any judge worth his weight in gold is going to look at a dog and think, "Wow, look at that beautiful coat." Now I'll find out what's underneath it.
Yes, absolutely.
You should never judge with your eyes. You should judge with your hand.
And when you agree to take on a dog to handle, what is it that allows you get inside their head that makes? Is it just an empathy with them, or do you have to work at it?
That's very hard question to answer, really. I don't quite know. You have to get into their heads. You know,
Yes.
it's going to be a partnership. Okay, you know, you want to do the best for them, and they've got to want to do it for you. So you have to get into their heads. I mean, I wish I could answer this question easily.
Well, I assume they must come and live with you first and foremost.
Yeah, well, no, pretty much, but not necessarily. Because let's take Fresno for example. I mean, Jean Blythe had her,
Yes.
and she was obviously a beautiful bitch, and but Jean had such terrible trouble with her. She would drop her tail. She would just not do it for Jean, which is where I came in. Now, I was with Angela then, and we lived in a little cottage, not too far away. And she came in the house, and she lived in the house. Now, Jean Blythe was a great breeder, and she was
Yes,
a nice person, but she'd been a teacher, and as such, some teachers have this way with them. It's a bit when I say domineering, I don't mean it quite
matronly,
but through her voice, she was quite heavy and sharp.
Yeah.
Frezzy didn't like that. Now I come in on the scene, and I'm not like that. So you know, and oh, I just loved her, and we just worked together, and we built up a relationship. I don't know how we did, but we did. So much so that the first show we went to the last show we went to, she never gave me an ounce of trouble, never. But not necessarily they have to live with me, because Scarf Michael never lived with me. He always lived with Ron and Carol. But again, I think if you're nice to dogs, and you just, you know, with your hands, and just gentle, and you know, dogs appreciate that, and just
and perhaps it comes down to breed temperament, because I mean the terrier temperament would be so much different to a utility temperament, which
I mean, Fresno was a very different temperament to Scarf Michael's. I mean, obviously he's a Kerry, he's fiery, which is what you want. But I only used to meet him at shows, but we always gelled. And I think your voice, you know, if you talk to dogs, I talk to dogs all the time when I'm in the ring. You know, just gentle talking, and it just, I think that kind of gets into their heads as well, that they can trust you. They've got to want to trust you. However you do it, and I don't know how I do it, with the voice, with my hands.
Have you ever had a dog that wasn't compatible?
Oh, I've had several. Yeah, one dog which I really liked was an Alaska Malamute. Sue Alice's dog. He was called Cheo Blue Thunder. I showed him, and we did well, but I could never get into his head. He was a very strong dog, very strong-willed, but even I couldn't get into him, you know, to get a real relationship. But I've had several that, you know, you just won't do it for whatever reason.
And do you prefer handling dogs to bitches, Geoff?
No, it doesn't have no
preference.
No, I've got to like the dog. I can soon tell after the first couple of shows whether we're going to do it between us. And if it's not going to work, then it's not going to work. And it's not, you know, and I've never taken money from people under false pretenses. If I don't think I can do it with them, I'll tell them straight away. You know, please don't waste your money, because this is not going to work.
Because it mustn't suit every dog.
Say again?
It mustn't suit every dog.
Yeah. It's, you know, it's a very tricky area to try and explain. You've got to feel. You can feel them. You can actually feel with your hands with some dogs. Some dogs you can put your hand on, and they tense straight away. You know, you can feel a tightness in them. Whereas others, you just run your hand down, and you can tell straight away they're going to be relaxed in your hands. I use my hands a lot with dogs in the ring. I show a lot of actions now, and you run your hands down. It calms them, and it just relaxes them, and they want to do it for you then.
And in terms of young people that would and we do see nowadays a lot of young people who are handling dogs almost semi-professionally for people. What sort of advice would you give them?
Well, we have there are a lot of young folks. Let's say 25 upwards. We've got some young people over here who are really good. They're really committed to their breeds. They're really trying hard. And I watch them, and there's some great kids out there. I call them kids. They're probably not kids, but I call them kids. And they're doing really well. The younger ones, I kind of worry a little bit about. I don't see a lot of passion in them. They want to show. They want to go in the ring and show a dog, and they give back to mum, and they go off and have a Coke or something. I'd like a lot of the youngsters to have a bit more commitment, just to, a few years ago, we said to Liz Cartledge, who's secretary of the junior handlers, we're looking for somebody young to come to shows, to give us a hand, to ring watch, get dogs ready and what have you. There must be some kids out there that would love that. We didn't get one person.
Really?
No. And that kind of saddened me in lots of ways. Saddened me because we couldn't get any help, but saddened me that these kids are there. But yeah, they want to show dogs, but that's it.
That's worrying and sad at the same time.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Because I know both you and Michael do encourage. I mean, you have Rich with you now, who's, by my standards, he is young. But, you do encourage people to come on board and help and take part and enjoy the spoils.
I mean, years ago, Yukonuba had a day for encouraging people. And we were there, we were helping different young kids. And one lady came and said, her son would like to come and speak to us, and he came and we chatted to him, and he was dead keen, and that was young Will Croxford, and he was I should think he was only about 13, maybe something like that, and eventually he came up here, and he's been up several times, and he's gone on and he's done well for himself. But I don't see many kids like that now. And that worries me.
Perhaps like everything is just a phase dogs are going through right now.
I don't know. I don't know whether these kids have got the right passion for it. I think it may be a stage, or maybe it's mum and dad sort of pushing them into the ring, and well, go on, it's junior, and you will do it, kind of thing. Rather than the kids saying, I really want to do it for me,
Yes, there can be an element of that from time. Samantha Bradbury wants to know, do you think West Highland White Terriers as a breed have changed since you first came into the breed?
Yeah.
Dramatically?
Well, if you go from the days when I started, I mean, we had rings full of beautiful dogs. I mean, 20 and 30 in a class was commonplace.
Right.
We don't have that now. The quality now is not as good as it was. But then you see the problem is, like a lot of breeds, we've lost so many of our good breeders. They've died off, and so then everything shrinks. The gene pool is shrinking. And it really worries me for the breed. But West is not on their own. There's lots of breeds really struggling, particularly in the Terrier group.
Yeah, so I was just about to say, you hit on a very interesting point, because a lot of the older breeders have died off, and they're not being replaced by people in a lot of these breeds,
Well,
and it
a-
is seriously damaging.
you see, again, the problem is from then to now, people don't keep that many dogs anymore. Whereas,
Yes.
you know, the older breeders would keep a team of dogs, you know, 3 or 4 stud dogs. So, you know, there was always something to choose from. But that doesn't happen anymore. We have, you know, people in a normal house who have a couple of dogs in the kitchen. Well, breeds can't go on like that, and it's a worldwide problem, I think. Really, trying to find new blood for
Mm,
certain breeds, it's very concerning.
mm, mm. Now we have mentioned Dianthus Buttons.
Yeah,
That was your first Best in Show winner, Crufts.
yeah,
You subsequently won it again as a handler, but you also won it then with Michael and Scarf Michael.
yeah.
Now, I'm going to leave Hackensack for the moment, and we're going to move on to Scarf Michael.
Right.
I have spoken to a lot of judges over the last few months, and 25% of them will say to me that if they could have judged a dog that they never did, it would be Michael.
Yeah, yeah.
What made him such a special character? And I'm going to throw a photograph up now of him, if you can see it. That's Michael winning Best in Show, and I'm gonna just tell you why he was such a special Kerry Blue.
Oh,
I mean, he had what 6,000 points in the United States.
yeah, yeah. Well, he was one of the greats of all time. To go over him, he was just beautiful. Everything flowed, you know, his neck, his shoulders, his top line. He had the most beautiful coat, beautiful coloured coat. He had a beautiful head and expression, but he had charisma.
Yes.
You know, great dogs have to have charisma, and this dog had it in bundles. You know, and he was magical to show. You know, you put him on a lead, and again, it's hard to explain
He
the
just did the
feeling.
business.
He just floated. You know, he just went around that ring and he just floated. He was a beautiful, beautiful dog, and
And
he
he
was
had
on his
the
toes all the time.
quintessential Kerry Blue temperaments, didn't he? I mean, he
Yeah.
was fiery.
Oh, he was fiery. Yes, he was. Yeah, yeah. Which is, you know, it's part of the breed, and I wouldn't knock it in any way at all. It's perfect. But he would just stand his ground. You know, he could stand. I think I could bring Mrs. Smith in from Tesco's and say, "Here, hang on to that dog," and he would do it for her. You know, he was
Really.
one of them greats. Yeah, yeah,
And you won the group the following year, I think, with his brother.
yeah. Tundi Bayo. Yeah.
So that must have been quite an exciting litter.
Ah, they were different litters. I think it was the same breeding but different litters.
Yes. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Tundi he was more fiery than Mick was, so I had to
Really.
really hang on to him. Yeah, yeah. He never gave me any trouble, but you know, he was fiery. Yeah, yeah.
Sparky.
But again, he was on his toes. Showed beautifully. Again, lovely to go over. Not
And
quite.
here we go already. Already, Desmond Murphy from the States. One of the greatest dogs he's ever had the pleasure to judge.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, certainly in the States, he went down an absolute storm.
He was magical. He was just you. The people who've seen the dog know what we're talking about. It's a shame the people who haven't seen him, you know, because they've only seen pictures of him. To see him in real life, he was just, as I say, magical. He had charisma, he had style. He was just an amazing dog. I mean, I remember
And
going
his influence across Europe and the States has been quite dramatic, actually.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Why not? I mean, why not? I remember
and
going to Montgomery, that was the weekend he came out. The ringside was like 6 deep. I had to stand on a chair to look over into the ring. I mean, even now I'm going cold thinking about it. The excitement, it was electric, and I mean, oh my God! I mean, when he won, I mean, the place just erupted. It was just amazing.
And they're very clever breeders, Torrens.
Yeah, Ron and Carol, absolutely.
And again,
yeah.
their influence with Kerry Blues has been. I mean,
Well,
I judged in Italy, and all the stuff I put up went back to Ron and Carol's.
yeah.
And then they're breeding some beautiful Kerry Blues out there in Italy.
And I mean, in fairness to Ron and Carol, they don't live in a big place and they don't keep lots of dogs. So to produce what they've done in such a small space,
yes,
because you have to do it in such small numbers. Not easy.
I think you're right. You had to see the Scarf Michael to believe how really good he was.
Yeah.
And it'll be a while before we see his like again, I think. Although there's a couple coming up that might rival him on the continent. No?
We'll see.
So we're going to move on to what I know is your absolute pin-up. And certainly one of mine, and that's Hackensack.
Yeah.
Who won Best in Show for you back in, give me the date.
84.
And beautiful laps up. I mean, let me see if I can. That's yourself. My God, you look very young now.
I had some hair then.
Yeah. And the wonderful Jean Blythe, of course.
Yeah.
And again, tell me what was so special about him.
He's another electric dog. He was you to go over. He was a lovely Larser. I always say with Larsers, what you see isn't always what you get. You can present them beautifully, but when you put your hands under the coat, it might not always be what you expect. But with Hackensack, it was. He had the most fabulous, hard, straight coat. He had a fabulous body to go over. His outline was perfect. His tail set was perfect. And when he moved, he had that same magic that Mick had. He just carried himself so well in such a typical Larser way. That jaunty action. It actually drives me crazy these days when I see some people running around the ring with Larsers. They should not be running.
Don't even start.
Larsers have a particular action. It's jaunty. It's not like an American cocker. With all due respect, it's not.
Absolutely.
It's a Larser. So they have to move in that particular way. And he did. He was a great show dog.
But he set the template for Laza Axels, didn't he? I mean, Lazas were strong, but he really set the mark for Lazas. And I remember him winning Best in Show, and I fell in love with him.
Yeah, because he was an exciting dog, but the best Larser was Fresno, without question.
Really?
Yeah.
Expand, come on.
Sorry?
Expand. Wait, Fresno.
She was delightful. She was feminine. She was a beautiful size. She was a beautiful shape. There wasn't one thing on her that I would want to change.
Really?
There was on Hackensack, but on Fresno. I was talking to, there's a very famous lady in America called John Kendall, the All Lanes lady who sent over Intrepid, who changed the breed in the UK. And I mean, in my eyes, she's the greatest Larser breeder ever. And she said to me, when she came over here, she went over Fresno, and she could not find one thing that she would want to change on her. Well, from Joan Kendall, that was it for me, you know. And again, she just floated around the ring.
And Ingham was just saying that Fresno was the best for her, and actually spoiled her for judging lasses because she was the template.
Yeah.
And Jean was quite a clever breeder as well.
Oh, without doubt.
Very similar to Ron and Carol in Kerry Blues. Jean was really clever with her lads.
She produced champion after champion after champion. You know, beautiful dogs. She really did. Yeah, I mean, it was a great loss when we lost Jean. It was a great loss to the breed, because of knowledge and expertise in breeding these dogs. You know.
And is that line still alive? Or is it just back in pedigrees now?
You mean Jean Blyne's?
Line, yeah, Jean Blyne's.
It's very watered down now, I'm afraid. I don't know. No, it's not. I don't think there's anywhere that you could really get it back. And of course, you know, in those days of Fresno and all that, we didn't have frozen semen and all that. Then, you know, it wasn't.
Of course.
So we didn't have the opportunity to take semen and freeze it to use now. Unfortunately, that's one sad part about it all.
And of your wins at Crufts, Geoff, does any of them really stand out for you, or are they all as special as one another?
I think Crufts is one of those shows where all wins are special. Really, all. I mean, we've done. I mean, Crufts has been such a wonderful show for us here. I think we've actually won 11 groups at Crufts over the years with different ones. I mean, winning the group with Fresno when she was 9 was really special because, you know, I mean, she was a veteran. She won from the veteran class. She went in and she won the group. You know, that was extremely special. The Carries were special. It's a magical show, you know. Yeah, they're all wonderful wins there because it's you know, the world and his wife was watching. You know, it's a show. Everybody's watching you. You know, it's the one show that everybody wants to win at. Yeah.
And just continue on the handling for a little bit. I know you've handled in the States frequently. You've handled it in Montgomery. You've handled it in Westminster, etc., etc. And this comes from June Wall, your buddy. Have you ever thought about moving to the States to go professional over there, where it really is a profession?
Well, we tried to move there 20 years ago. We were going to move to California. I really wanted to go and I love the American scene. I love the presentation. I love the razzmatazz. You know, it's exciting. But the problem we had was with immigration, right. because to go and live in America, you had to have a green card, a work permit. But the problem was that we couldn't go and work over there as a handler because America had hundreds of handlers. So, you know, the immigration wouldn't work that. So we had to think of another way. And we had some great friends in America who were in a magazine, Matt and Jean, and they advised us and said, you know, we should try and go through the route of extraordinary ability. Well, I thought, well, you know, how does this work? But the problem was that in order to go through that route, you had to have paperwork to substantiate that you had extraordinary ability. And and it just became so difficult and so expensive. And then, unfortunately, you have to have a sponsor. And we had a sponsor, and their marriage fell apart. So, in effect, that was the end of it. We couldn't carry on because the process was just too difficult, which I'm disappointed about. But hey ho.
It is a totally different scene, though, isn't it?
Oh yes. It's a tough scene. I mean,
not for the faint-hearted.
Those handlers worked damned hard. I mean, it's to be honest with you, I'm not sure that we could have done it. To be honest, living in England, you go to a show like 3 hours, 4 hours. The furthest show would be 5 hours. That would be Bournemouth. In America, that's like round the corner.
Yes.
And days and days and days of it. I'm not sure we could have done it really. Maybe we could. I don't know. We'll never know. But
there is just as an aside, there is a wonderful program which you can pick up on YouTube. It's not very long, but it's called 7 Days Out, and it films the year that Betty Ann Stenmark did Best in Show at Westminster, but it follows I think two professional handlers and just a guy who's showing his cavalier. It's really interesting to watch from the professional handler's point of view, and sort of the pressure they're under.
What's it called again?
It's called 7 Days Out.
All right.
It literally follows them from 7 days to the day they're showing on Best in Show. It's really good. So, as a breeder, you've been a very successful breeder, as well as a handler, along with Angela and then Michael, and particularly now in Bichons, with the Pamplona line. You've been extraordinarily successful. When you're choosing who to breed who to, do you study pedigrees, or do you decide that I think that bitch is going to meet that gel with that dog, or is it a little combination of both?
We do study pedigrees, yes, and we breed quite close. We breed quite close.
You breed quite close.
Yeah, close.
Okay.
We very rarely go out. It's the same. It's the same when I had Lars's. If I bred close, it worked. If I didn't, it didn't. And so the same with Bichons. We breed close, and we look at pedigrees. We look at dogs as well. But we do rarely go out. We do import breeding that we pretty sure would be compatible to us. I mean, we in the early days, of course, we had some nice dogs, but then we got to a stage when we were struggling. And Michael went to Westminster one year, and he sat by the Bichon ring and saw this dog, and fell in love with the dog, and thought, well, I don't know these people, but I'll ask them if there's any chance, of something from him or whatever. And he went over and he spoke to these people, and they said, "Oh yes, we'll send him to England for a year." Well, it was outstanding, amazing, and that was the Perret boys, and I told you, I took Perret's I Told You So, came over here, and he changed the breed. He changed our kennel for the better, and he changed the breed, and we've gone on from there. And a Buster, as we called him, he's always there in the background somewhere.
Yes, and Bichons have changed quite considerably over the years.
Yes, they have changed.
When you look at Mad Louis,
and look at a lot.
He was a fabulous dog in his own right. Mad Louis was a superb Bichon, but I mean, the trim has come a long way. I'd
love now to be able to trim him like I do now, like his head. That head, like thinking, oh, look at all that hair. But that's what they were like then. I mean,
that was fashionable then. The bell head.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know, they were fashionable, and I mean, you flick on to which was I think very recently, and that's Pablo,
Yeah, yeah,
if
that's probably it.
I'm
Yeah.
right, and it, you know, they have moved on so much in on this side of the world, um, and, and poodles. Do you still have an interest? Do you still have an involvement?
We have an interest. Certainly, we'll always have an interest in
Because
poodles. I
obviously
mean,
Michael was, well, your own association with Angela,
yeah,
very successful in toy poodles, etc.
well,
And Michael
that was really
with
miniatures
standards,
in those days. That was miniatures in those days with Angela, the toy,
miniatures.
and now with Michael it was standards. Yeah, I don't want to do it anymore. Getting standards ready, it's oh god,
Mm.
it's a lot of work. You know,
It's a full-time
I
job.
don't want that work. I don't want all that work, but I
Mm.
still love the breed.
Mm.
I love judging the breed. I love watching them. Um, it's another breed that's struggling again. A lot of the good old breeders have gone, um,
Mm.
which is a shame. But as I say, it happens in all breeds. It's happening
And we
everywhere.
only recently lost Frank Sabea.
Sorry.
We only recently lost Frank
Yeah,
Sabea.
that was absolute tragedy. He was a great man. I've got so many wonderful memories of Frank. Um, just hang on, I'm running out of power. Um, yeah, he was a great fella.
It's a breeder.
Just bear with me, I'm losing power.
Let's talk amongst yourselves there for a minute.
Yeah, I'm just having to, because I've moved it from where it should be. It doesn't like it. Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that.
Didn't unplug Michael there, did
Yeah,
you?
Frank was one of the all-time greats.
Mm.
I mean, when we went to California, I spent some time with him because the lady that bought Bichons from us lived in California, and he was a great friend of theirs. So we spent a lot of time with Frank. Um, he was just an amazing man. And then when we had him over here, we ran a big Bichon Congress, and we we did an interview with Andrew Brace did an interview with Frank the day after. Just he's sort of a person that you could sit and you could listen to for hours and hours.
Apparently, yes.
I just wish I'd had the opportunity to see Frank actually handling. I mean, when he was judging, you could tell he'd been a dancer. The way he carried himself in the ring, he was lovely to watch. His deportment and and going over dogs. He had beautiful hands.
Mm. Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And unfortunately, we are losing, and certainly over the last year, certainly here, I don't know about the UK, I'm sure it's true, we've lost an awful lot of people. And it's not related to COVID, but they seem to have fallen through the cracks in terms of, you can't go to their funerals, you can't,
yeah,
um,
yeah.
you can't give them the sort of send off that people would want to. And
That's the
it is one of the
stuff.
tragedies of this
Yeah,
situation.
yeah.
And forgotten illnesses, and I'm diversing here, but forgotten illnesses like cancer, etc., that have fallen through the cracks. Um, anyway, you mentioned earlier that you stay close within your breeding.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
do you see a value in outcrossing? Do you outcross at all?
Well, there comes times where you have to outcross, um, but we were only outcrossed to a dog who's line bred.
Okay.
We wouldn't just outcross to a dog of mumbo jumbo breeding. It has to be an outcross to something well bred.
Okay.
And then back in.
And when you're choosing a puppy to run on for show, what is it you're looking for?
Well, I mean, I'm not one of those that's forever stacking puppies on tables and pushing them into shape and saying that'll do. No. We always raise the puppies in the house, and then we watch them playing around, and you just look for the one that carries itself the best. You know, the right conformation, obviously, the right head, and then you just kind of nurture that, and you just hopefully it'll go on. I mean, some do, some don't, but some do.
Yes.
You just, and usually your eye's drawn to one. You know, you have that because you have a picture in your head what you want, what you're looking for. And I mean, now with us in Bichons, you know, it's embedded in your brain, so you're looking for that picture already.
And how often do you must have had that feeling that that the hairs rise up on the back of your neck, or you get goosebumps when you look at a puppy?
Yeah.
That has there been any particular ones that you've bred that you've had that?
Well, Pablo is one.
Because it doesn't happen with all now, in fairness.
It doesn't happen with them all, no, but I don't want to name them because I'll get into trouble with Michael. I mean, we had a lovely dog that we sent to Regina in Mallorca. He was absolutely lovely. And he's done so well, and he's, you know, we often breed better dogs actually than bitches.
Okay.
For whatever reason, you know, breeding. We breed fabulous dogs. We struggle sometimes to get a really good bitch. We have one now.
It's interesting.
Obviously, with the situation, she won't make the puppy classes, but she's absolutely beautiful. So we're quite excited about her. But as I say, you know, bitches are difficult for us to find.
Okay. Well, yeah. In Bichons, I'm assuming you're talking Bichons.
Yeah.
Yeah. I suppose that's not actually uncommon.
Sorry, say again?
I don't think that's probably uncommon to find. Dogs do tend to be stronger in the breed than bitches.
Well,
bitches need to be outstanding.
But you know, in our litters, we often don't get many bitches anyway.
Okay.
We do get more dogs. You know, genes are genes. You know, it's what comes out, you know, from them that determines. But yeah.
And in terms of standards, etc., and what for you would be the three pillars that makes a dog a winner?
The three pillars, what?
That makes a dog a winner.
Well, obviously, it has to be. You know, the conformation has to be right. You know, certainly no outstanding faults. Temperament, of course. You know, you could have the best made dog in the world. If it hasn't got the temperament, then you're going to struggle.
Absolutely.
And you want that little bit of style, that little bit of that catches the eye, something that just draws you to something, you know. All the you know, again, we never rest on our laurels here. We're always looking for the next great one. You know, Pablo's retired now, so we're looking for the next great one, and you know, that's the way it is. We never sort of just satisfied with what we have.
He's retired now, is he?
We want something to be better and to be better.
Pablo is now retired, is he?
Yes.
Oh, right. Okay. Oh.
Well, you know, he won the group at Crufts. What more can you do?
Yeah.
And you know, it's no good. It's no good. You know, hiding around it. You know, there are judges out there that sometimes go out of the way to sort of, well, I'll show them. You know, There's always that around. So it's like with Fresno. You know, we retired here at the top. You know, and it's like with Pablo, we tied them at the top. Because the only other way is down the other side.
Yes, that's quite true. That's quite true. And in terms of breeding, what's been your biggest achievement as a breeder?
Oh, 10 Lhasa champions. Yeah, they were. I had a great time in Lhasas. Yeah, I mean, I just hit on a formula. I mean, I was so. I mean, let's be fair. I was so lucky. I had Fresno. I had Fresno to breed from. You know, she had that first litter of 8. 6 were champions.
Wow.
Two were dog of the years.
Incredible.
One in Denmark, one in Sweden. You know, so I had a great start. You know, and again with you know, it annoys me sometimes with people. You know, you'll say to them, "Oh, you got a litter? Yeah. Are they nice? They're all right. I'll keep one to breed on from." No, breed from the best that you've got. Not just, you know, an ordinary one. An ordinary one won't often breed you a great one.
Yeah. You're quite right. And
breed from the best that you can.
do you think you'll ever have a Lhasa again?
No. I'm getting lazy. And while I'm talking to you now here, Colm, the rain is howling outside.
Yes.
And thank the Lord, I haven't got to worry about Lhasa coats. You know, okay. I love the breed. I'll always love the breed.
You need to get staff.
Yeah.
Do you think that? No, I'm not going to ask you that question. No, that would be unfair. I'm going to pass by that question. So, has there been a dog you bred or handled that you think you'll never have again? You'll never see the like again.
I'll never see another like a Fresno. I'm sorry, but I'll
really
never.
Are obsessed with Fresno, aren't you?
Yeah, and I'll never see the like of Mick again. I won't. You know, those great ones. You know, if you get one in your lifetime, you know, you're doing well. I mean, I'm lucky. I've had 2. What more can you ask for?
I'd have had a photograph of Fresno if I'd known you were going to go on about Fresno. So
it's a shame
because it really and truly, you know, people need to see Fresno as you know, for the Lhasa.
The danger is
it was beautiful.
It's going back to what Anne Ingram said about Fresno. You know, and I say to people, you know, have a picture in your mind when you judge. Like, if you're going to judge large stuff, but the problem is trying to find one like her. That's the problem. And again,
it ain't going to happen.
No.
And you mentioned also earlier, and just to go back slightly, about people running with Lhasa Apsos. This is a trend that seems to be happening almost across all toy breeds. I've seen people running with pugs. I've seen people running with Bichon Frise. I've seen people running with you know, that's not the natural gait.
No, and you have to blame the judges for this.
Absolutely.
You know, if judges stopped it, they wouldn't do it. You know, people think, oh, if I run with it, it'll make it look more extra special. Well, no, it won't. Not necessarily, because if they're not built right, all it'll show is their imperfections.
Absolutely, you're quite right. Actually,
You know, if they got poor fronts, the faster you go, the more obvious it'll make how bad the front is in soundness and reach and drive.
Yeah, or the winding hind end.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And Ingram mentions that you also showed some fabulous beagles for Cathy Sutton.
Oh, yes, I did. Yes, I did. Yeah. That was an amazing time for me because, again, and it's funny how I can forget lots of things, but there's certain things I can remember. And I remember showing something at Darlington many years ago, obviously, and it was pouring with rain and the wind was howling and we all ran under this tent. And I had a dog with me. I don't know who it was. And I happened to be stood next to Mrs. Sutton. I mean, I never called her Cathy Sutton, but you know, it was always Mrs. Sutton. And I didn't know her at all, but I knew who she was. And she just kind of looked at me and said, "Oh, hello." And she said something. Would you like to come and show some beagles for me?
No.
Me? And I remember it so well. I was invited down to the house, and it was when one of the shows was in London. The LKA was at Olympia then, and we were staying with Vicky Marshall, the Vic Mars poodle lady, and we were and Angela was with me then, and Angela wouldn't come with me, so I had to go down on my own. I was terrified, terrified, because you know, if you ever saw the group captain, you know, her husband, he was a big man with handlebar moustache. You know, RAF, I mean, very imposing. Oh my God. Anyway, I got down there, I was shaking like a leaf. The door opened. Not only was Mrs. Sutton there and the group captain, but a very famous judge called Judy de Cassenbrook was there. Wow. I won't tell you what I nearly did to myself. I mean, but they were charming. They were lovely.
Again, another very clever breeder of her breed. And look, I'm sure that there are the same clever breeders, and there are the same clever breeders out there. I mean, we've discussed some of them tonight. The Ramseys, yourself and Michael. You know, there's loads of them out there. I just don't think people are in awe of them as much as perhaps we used to be.
Well, I think these days, you know, people are very familiar now, aren't they?
Yes.
You know, I mean, I would never ever call Mrs. Sutton or the group captain anything other than that. Never.
Yes, you wouldn't have been messaging Cathy Sutton on Facebook, for example.
And she never said to me. I mean, we went down there lots of times and had lunch and whatever. She never actually said to me, "Call me." Well, she didn't like Cathy. She preferred to be called Catherine. She never said, "Call me Catherine," never, and I never offered. But nowadays, people will come up to you and they'll call you by your first name, and they'll walk away. And Michael will say, "Who's that?" And I'll say, "I haven't got a clue." You know, in those days, you didn't call people by their first names. You know, Mrs. Sansom, the famous, she was always Mrs. Sansom. And lots of people, you call them by their you know, Mr. or Mrs. Unless they invited you to, you know.
What do you say to people who have the attitude that, oh, well, it's Geoff and Michael, of course they're going to win?
Yeah, well, you hear that all the time. You hear that about, you know, yeah, we're here now. But look at where we came from. I mean, when we started, you know, Michael's days, my days, I was nobody. I was a kid, but I worked my way to where we are now. Yeah, I'm well known now. Of course I am. I've got all those years, you know, before me. Yeah, people will look at you in the ring. You can win because of who you are, but you can also lose because of who you are.
That is a very valid point, and it is a point that actually Rita makes very often. That you know, okay, there are times when I have won when I shouldn't have, but there's also times I've lost when I shouldn't have.
Yeah.
And that is also true. It's 50-50. Well, not necessarily 50-50.
Well, I'll show them how honest I am. I'll put them down. I'm not frightened of them. That type of thing. That's not judging. That's not.
No, it's not. No. Is there a dog, past or present, that you've seen that you would love to have either judged or you would love to have handled?
That's an easy one. I would have given my right arm to show Jilly, the petite I gave best in show to her Crufts. I would have given my right arm to show her. She excited me so much. She was
beautiful.
Again, she just floated. I mean, she could be naughty. Oh yeah, I've seen her be naughty, but that was their character. She was like, well, I'll show you kind of thing. But I would have loved to show her. Yeah. Amazing.
And that brings me neatly on to you doing best in show, because you're one of the elite, one of the few that has had the privilege of you've won best in show, and you've handled twice, and you with Michael again, as I said earlier, with Scarf Michael, but you've also judged best in show.
Yeah.
What is that feeling like? Because that most of us will never experience that.
Oh dear. Well,
when you step out into that spotlight.
Well, the terrifying part is having to wait to go out, because when I did it, you're in the back there and you can see the group winners, and you know who they are anyway because you've seen them the previous days, and they all go out, and you're literally in there with the chairman on your own. Nobody else is there. It's the loneliest place in the world, and you've got this lump in because you're thinking, please God, I don't trip over, or did I fasten a loose? Fasten my co-laces. Is my zip up? And then you walk out there, and it's scary, because you walk out into complete darkness apart from this light, so you can't see anything. We've done all the rehearsal, but on the day it's pitch black.
Yes.
And then you go out there and you stand there, and it's for the second it's scary, then it's so much exciting.
Do you kick into that? Do you kick into, like, certainly on big events I would be nervous going into judge, but then suddenly that light switches on that says, okay, we're focused, we're judging dogs, and you kick into a zone. Does that kick in, or are you still conscious of, I'm doing bloody best in show at Crufts?
No, once the lights go up and you forget where you are. You're judging. You're totally concentrated on the dogs. It is kind of nerve-wracking a bit, but you've got all these dogs, and you're looking and you're concentrating. Your mind's not really. You can't think of anything else. You've got to think about what you're doing. You've got to get it right. I wanted to get it right. I mean, again, the world and his wife is watching you. And of course, the other thing you've got to be careful of, which I have learned over the years, because when I first started judging, I would use expressions on my face which were not particularly pleasant. You'd go, all that sort of thing. So you have to. I learned to sort of keep a non-committal face going over dogs. Did I like this? Yes. Did I like this? Yes. I don't like this. Yes.
Yeah, I can imagine that on Channel 4 or more for the judges' hair to lip read bloody hell.
And then you have to choose.
Yes. And of course you choose, where is it now? What made you do it? What quintessential PBGB?
Yeah, I was very lucky, I think, in saying I had a really nice lineup. I really did have a really nice lineup, and
it actually was a very strong lineup.
Yeah, and I can honestly say there was not one of them I didn't like, but I was looking for that bit extra that just excited me, and funny enough, because you're best in show judge, so you have to sit there every day and watch the groups. And I'd watch Jilly on Hound Day, and coming away from the venue, I said to Michael, well, Jilly's going to have to do a bit better than that, because I didn't think she really put on a great performance. She was all right, but she didn't do it for me. So you get there and you're looking again. But I went all over the dogs, and I said to the TV cameras I wanted to send them all around individually, one at a time. And I thought, right, this is where I'm going to decide. And I sent them round, and she just went into another gear, and she just carried herself. She never faltered the whole way around. And that was it.
And just looking at that photograph again, there is a glint in her eye that is devious. It's mischievous.
Yes.
I mean, yes. It's what you want, isn't it?
And that's what I loved. I love that sort of little bit of cheekiness. That little bit of character. That.
And just going back to your handling now, is there a big difference between winning with a dog that you're handling and winning something special with a dog that you've actually bred?
Well, winning with the dog that you've bred, obviously you're very proud.
Yes.
It's because you've created this animal. You've brought it up to this stage and it's now winning. Yeah, you're very proud. But I'm still as happy, handling for a client. Because it's nice when you make people happy. It's a great feeling to make somebody happy, and a lot of people I've handled for, I've been very, very lucky, and it's a great feeling.
And just on a slightly more serious, moving on to a more serious one, you have an affinity with the French Bulldogs. That is widely known. You love French Bulldogs.
Yeah.
Are you concerned about how kennel clubs are dealing with the whole area about health issues on brazocephalic breeds? Do you think they're doing it right?
No, I don't think they're doing it right. I am concerned about it. The way they pick on these breeds all the time. And the sad part about all this is most of the problems come from the bad breeding. The people out there out to make a fast buck.
Yes.
And of course we all get tarred with the same brush. And I know for a fact, because I'm involved with these breeds, how hard that we've all worked to make them healthy. Frenchies and Bulldogs have worked really hard. And the sad part is that Frenchies are now off the breed watch because we've worked hard and we've got health testing and we've made the breed healthy. And Bulldogs have done the same, but yet the Bulldogs have never been taken off the list. And I think that's very sad.
That's very sad.
They have worked hard, and unfortunately, whenever breeds are castigated for this, they mention the Bulldog, and that is unfair, because I know the breeders. They're a great bunch of people, and they've worked damned hard.
And they're passionate about the breed.
They're very passionate, and I feel very sorry for them. It's the people out there who are out to make a fast buck, who are producing all these dogs, A, of the wrong colour, and B, unhealthy. And unfortunately we're all being lumped together, and I think the kennel clubs should try and get together and try and work something out, to recognise that the good breeders are doing their very best.
Yes. Well, I was heartened by the fact that the Scottish Kennel Club have had a slight little coup in where they've had an alteration to the licensing regulations up there recently.
Yes.
And that tells me, and I have been banging on about this for ages, that kennel clubs should be lobbying politicians more. I mean, we all know these activists have money. We all know that they're well funded. They employ lobbyists to lobby the politicians. So, kennel clubs need to get off their backsides and start doing the same. I'm not saying we don't have problems, because, we do, but we deal with them. But we're not the enemy.
Yeah.
And that's what the kennel clubs need to get across to the politicians.
I can't speak about Ireland because I'm not qualified enough to. But over here, we're having now so many registrations of colour not recognised. Blues and these black and tans and all sorts of these weird colours. So much so that the man in the street think French is only coming blues. And what's happening is a lot of the good breeders now have stopped breeding because we can't find homes for the correct colours.
Yes.
And I think I think our kennel club should try and educate the public in some way, because it's spinning over into bulldogs, of course, having it. Dachshunds are coming in all these colours. Labradors are coming in silvers. Chows. So it's really spreading in a bad way, and I worry that down the line for the future of pedigree dogs. It sounds good, but it really does worry me.
I don't know where we go with it.
I mean, in fairness to you in Ireland, and June Wall was one of the instigators in getting a separate register for them. Will register these colours, but will not then allow them to be bred from.
Yes.
Brilliant. Why can't we do that?
Yes. Two-tier.
To try and stop this. Well, it's like a virus that's going through the breed, and it's just non-stoppable.
It is. The next couple of years are going to be very pivotal in our sport, and unfortunately, because of the current situation, of course, it is almost getting worse. Because we have no shows to show off what we're doing, and the kennel clubs are not. Well, certainly over here, we're not meeting to push these things on, which is another knock-on effect. You judge extensively. You're not away every weekend, but you do judge abroad quite a lot. Do you enjoy it?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Yeah, I do. I don't want. I'm not one of the judges that wants to go away every weekend. No. I don't want to do that. But I like to go, and I like to go and see other countries and see what there is over there. I find it interesting. Meet lots of people I've known for many years over there. I enjoy it. Yeah.
And do you enjoy critiquing abroad? Because it is very different to critiquing in the UK. So yes, in terms of in the UK, you're critiquing 1 to 3, but abroad you're critiquing every single dog. Yeah,
well, over here I have a different system to most people, because I do my critique excuse me, at the table. I write it there at the table with the dog in front of me, so there's no ifs and buts about what I'm writing, and then go straight to the dog press. So going overseas, it's not a problem for me. I can write those critiques, whereas people here will go home and think about it, and you've had critiques, I've had critiques where you think, well, that's not my dog, because you can't remember. But yeah, I don't mind critiquing at all.
Would you like to see it introduced if it was practical in the UK?
It will never be practical in the UK.
That's true.
Because of the entries are so huge, but it's a grading system.
That leads me to my next. Would you like to see grading?
Yes, I would, and I'll tell you why I would. Because we have big entries over here, as you well know. Some breeds we have huge entries, and you judge a class, and you place 3 or 4. Maybe 5, but usually 4. Okay, you have 20 dogs come in the ring. And you think, wow, this is a beautiful class. You can only place 4.
Mm.
So you place 4, all those go outside, and those people think that you don't like their dog.
Yeah.
You might well like their dog. It might be just in a small way that you couldn't get it in. But if you had a grading system, the exhibitor would know exactly what the judge thought. It can't be that difficult to do. You've got your judging book. You just, excellent or very good or good. Simple. At least the exhibitor knows what the judge thought of the dog.
Yeah. Except if you do give a very good, you do well. I suppose
you have to be honest. Everybody calls an excellent.
Absolutely not. Certainly not in the classes that the size that you have in the UK.
Yeah, if people are going to learn or want to learn, they have to know how good or not their dog is.
Mm. Yeah.
There's no good. Sugarcoating it. If it's a bad dog, it's a bad dog, and you have to know that.
Mm.
You are saving them in some ways lots of money by going around the country at every show.
Yes, because if they continue to get a very good show after show after show, they're going to either stop showing or they're going to go and get something better.
Yeah.
To move on. Yeah. And do you have advice for young people that might be considering going on the judging path or starting off on their judging career?
Well, don't step into the ring until you're completely confident you know enough about that breed.
And that's very valid, actually.
And I've said many times, judging is easy. You walk into the ring, you judge those dogs as honestly as you can, and you walk out again. Simple as that. But if you go in the ring and think, oh, that's Mrs. So-and-so and she won last week, and that's Mrs. So-and-so and she gave me a CC last week, and that's, you end up in a mess. Go in the ring with honesty and integrity, and you won't go far wrong.
Absolutely, because very similar to here in the UK, you start judging your own breed first.
Yes.
So you are judging your peers. People that you know within your breed. So if you go in there the first time, you're making a complete and utter twat of yourself. You're not going to get asked again. So you're quite right. The first rule is honesty. Be honest.
We all make mistakes.
Yes, absolutely.
As long as they're honest mistakes. I mean, I've judged and made mistakes. I will admit to it. I have. But
haven't we all?
So you're not wrong if you've made mistakes. We're all human. But if it's done in an honest way,
absolutely. And there's very often I have walked out of the ring and said, 2 beautiful dogs, and maybe I should have done this or that. But just again, you're so right. Be honest and go with what you know.
Yeah.
So in the middle of this pandemic, Geoff, how much impact do you think COVID-19 is going to have on our sport?
I don't know. The longer it goes on, I just worry that people will find other interests. They'll also probably have realised how much better their bank balance is.
This is true.
Will they take all that into consideration, or will they still think of it as a fun day out to be spent with their friends? Because let's be honest, once you're in the dog game, that's where all your friends are.
Yes.
You don't have time for friends in the next village and all that. Because you're away every weekend showing. So hopefully people will stay, but I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's a valid point. Mind you, I don't know what other interests they're going to find, because nobody can bloody move outside of 5 kilometers here. But I do agree. I think bank balance is going to be the pivotal factor here, because certainly our bank balance it is amazing how much dog showing actually costs when you. I think the diehards will probably stick with it.
Yes, I think so. Yeah, the really committed ones will.
Yeah,
it's the ones who have been sort of teetering on the edge of whether they want to carry on or not. They might fall by the wayside.
Yeah. So we move on now, and name me 4 dinner guests that you must have at a dinner party.
This is so hard.
You can expand. I won't limit you to 4.
Well,
we have a time limit. We're not going to be here all night.
Well, the 4 I've chosen, quite diverse, really. The first one will be Pepe Summerfield.
Absolutely, yes, actually.
She's a lady who I've the greatest respect for. She's a lovely lady. She's a lady. She was a great judge. She was honest. I just loved her. Frank Sabella. Again, a great fella. I was trying to have guests around the table that would be interesting and entertaining at the same time. So Frank would be there. The third one would be Joanna Lumley.
Oh, good choice.
She's somebody I absolutely love the lady, and she would be great fun. She's interesting. I mean, she's an actress, obviously, and I just think she would be really good around a table. Yeah. And the last one would be David Attenborough. I think that could be an interesting table.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'd love to be a fly on the wall at that one. And in terms of, is there a judge, breeder, or handler that you have seriously admired, past or present, within the world?
Well, Fefi was certainly one of them, because Fefi was a judge that you could watch her judge, and she'd do the very best she could. And she'd come out of the ring, and you could sit and talk to her for hours, and she'd go over every single dog, and she'd say, "I'm not sure I should have put that one over that one because of this. Maybe I was wrong there. I'm not sure." Really, real honesty, and beat herself up in some ways. Ellis Hume, I think, was one of our greatest judges.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I used to love Shonda Ellis. Again. He had great knowledge. Always tried his best. He was no fool.
Honest to himself.
Yeah.
Never. Yeah. He's judged in Ireland so often, and I always enjoyed watching him judge, because he made decisions that sometimes were controversial, but you could see the logic.
Yeah. And one person, handler-wise, would be Ernie Sharp. He was one of our greatest handlers ever. He went to live in Australia, and then sadly he died a few years ago. He was one of our greats. Very, very modest man. Great trimmer, great handler. And one from over your side of the water who needs recognition is Harry O'Donoghue.
Absolutely.
I mean, Harry has devoted his life to white fox terriers. He's produced some of the greatest dogs in the world over many, many years.
Absolutely.
And he's still going strong even now, and goodness knows how old Harry is. But anyway, that doesn't matter.
But in fairness to Harry is passing his knowledge on to a very gifted young granddaughter.
Yes, that's right. Yes. Yeah.
Who is going to be, I hope, she will certainly appear to have an affinity with fox terriers, and is a superb little fox terrier handler, and Harry is brilliant with her.
The only thing I hope is she's got his genes in as regards knowing what to put to what. That's the thing that you can't.
Time will tell.
Teach. Yeah. I hope so. Fingers crossed.
And your funniest or most embarrassing moment as an exhibitor or a judge? And don't tell me there hasn't been any.
The only one I can really think of that was really embarrassing
Oh,
was a few years ago when I was shown a team of dogs in Wales, and I must have been on my own, whatever, and pugs and bichons, and of course Welsh Kennel Club. It's split up in all sorts of places, and I was rushing around, and I'd been told the class was in of pug bitches, and I grabbed the pug from a box and I ran in and made it, stood there, to which the steward came over and said, "I'm sorry, sir, but this is a bitch class and that's a dog." Well, I wanted the ground to swallow me.
Yeah. Oh dear, that's very good. And I probably think I know where this is going, but however, if you hadn't started showing dogs, is there a sport you would have liked to have taken part in? Would you have followed? Or is it golf?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
That's not where I thought it was going to go, but however, okay.
It goes back to my childhood days when I was young, and where we lived at the other side of Southport, I used to go and was caddying for this golf club for 2 and 6pence to earn pocket money, and that must have got my interest going. And I've followed golf ever since. I could sit all day and watch golf. I don't play it because I don't have time, and I've nobody to go with. So, but anyway, I just love golf.
Okay. Do you want to explain what 2 and 6pence is to everybody?
Half a crown. I don't know. 2 and 6pence, I don't
know. So, if you could be transported to another country to live in, do you have a choice?
South Africa.
South Africa?
Yeah, wouldn't think twice about it. Yeah, South Africa. Absolutely love the place. Yeah.
People are wonderful, I believe.
Sorry?
I believe the people are wonderful.
Yeah. It's a wonderful country. Absolutely wonderful country. Yeah. If I'd been a bit younger, I would have gone, but anyway.
And what's your guilty pleasure?
Guilty pleasure. Well, let's take the guilty out. My pleasure, apart from dogs, is I absolutely love my garden.
Okay.
Gardening, I love it. Yeah. I mean, last year when when the COVID was on and there were no shows, being at home in the garden, paradise. Yeah. Yeah. There's no telephone in the garden. There's no, there's no. It's lovely. Enjoy it. Yeah. That's me.
Well, I have I don't know if I can get this. I haven't time to download this and put it on screen. But Anne Ingram has just sent me a photograph of, if I can get it in there.
Oh yeah, Frizzy.
Fresno.
Yeah.
For everybody who doesn't know the dog we were talking about.
Yeah.
There she is.
It's not the best photograph of her, but that's her.
Yeah, but in a short space of time, well done, Anne Ingram. God, he's so critical. So, if you could write your epitaph, Geoff, what would it be?
I mean, that's a horrible thing to have something to. I'd like people to think of me as being a nice person.
Good luck with that.
It was. Thank you. It was kind and helpful.
Yeah. Okay. Geoff, thank you very much. This has gone on for probably one of our longest interviews. Thank you very much. It's been thoroughly enjoyable. I hope everybody has enjoyed it. My guest next week, fingers crossed, will be Gabriela Vega from Portugal. And in the meantime, Geoff, stay safe.
You too.
Love to Michael.
Thank you.
And hopefully we will see you very soon, somewhere.
Well, can I just interrupt there? I'd love to go back. I'd love to go back to Ireland again. I have so many wonderful memories of being in Ireland and showing, going back many, many, many years. I had some great times. The circuit shows, all those old shows, in Dublin. I had a magical time. Yeah. So fingers crossed, I'm back in Ireland.
Yes, I remember you came for the European show and had a great time. And there's several photographs of you, which you posted yourself on the circuit.
Yes.
Well, with
that European show, they did a program, didn't they?
They did.
Yes, which anyway, let's just not mention that.
No, we won't go there. But as I say, Geoff, many thanks for taking the time. I hope everybody's enjoyed it. I hope you've enjoyed it, Geoff.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed it.
Time has flown by.
Yep.
And as I say, stay safe, my friend. And thank you, everybody, for watching. And I will see you next week.
Okay. Bye, everybody. Bye. Stay safe.